There is one stock that is about to skyrocket. Company is GE Vernova. They're a spinoff from GE, General Electric, and they do power generators. So that segment is up 50% year over year and has $15 billion of backlog. The company as a whole, they have other verticals as well, is doing about 10 billion of revenue, up 10% year over year. So the massive growth is from these generators. We'll look into what else the company does. It's not just a construction company. They also do electrification in general. They're GE, right? And they have some similar tickers that are getting this boost from the data center, boom that is finally trickling down from software, hyperscaler, all the way out to actually making these things built out and supply compute to who is eventually the end customer, like OpenAI. There's another company that's interesting as well right now. It's Rubrik Software, ticker symbol RBRK. They do security. They do backups, which is pretty important for enterprises. Basically, every enterprise company needs a backup provider. And what happened initially was people were saying, on-prem servers are the safest, right? When cloud started to become big, and 2015, 2010 was mobile. We're all going to be looking at our phones. Well, enterprises, which are the Fortune 500, which is the S&P 500 basically, that doesn't affect their IT spend. They're still spending it on servers, and they don't want to give Google and Amazon all their data because it's going over the cloud, right? It's super, ambiguous and just fluid as to what that could possibly mean. But what ended up happening was, it turns out, having two sort of outsourced consultant for your little on-prem server is not really safer than having thousands of, genius Google and Amazon AWS employees who are maintaining security for a multi-billion-dollar cloud product. So there was a major data breach involving, emails, and remember the Sony, it's called the Sony data breach, and that made all executives say, well, what if my emails get, leaked? And suddenly when the CEO is worried about their own emails, then they move to the cloud. So finally we're there. This is all happening 10 years later, 2025. And Rubrik Software is a security provider that is looking to capitalize on that finally. So let's jump into what these companies are up to.
This is Sam Putnam.
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 All right, so here's GEV. There's other companies that are similar that we've heard of. Siemens is a big one. They make gas and steam turbines. Mitsubishi Power also makes heavy-duty turbines. And Schneider Electric, Grid Solutions, hardware. Generac is sort of similar. They actually sell consumer generators that you can buy and that really fly off the shelves during hurricane season, but it's also in the same conversation. So we can look at those charts, but the only one that's super relevant is, I guess, Generac. These aren't even really publicly listed in the way we would want them to be. This is an ADR, so I don't even know if I can pull this up, ENR or SCHN. I certainly haven't been looking at these, but this is Energizer, SCHN, and Schneider is not even on here. So all we can really look at is GEV and then the data center plays as a whole, which it hasn't mentioned it in the ChatGPT, but you know what? Sometimes you just have to pull from your own ideas. VST and VRT are sort of similar. Neither of them look to be shoring up. This is the biggest base for sure. But what you can do is say, look, it's $100 billion company. They sell electricity, but they also provide these storage solutions and these generators, and that's why it's interesting right now. So it's a utility company. It is a spinoff from GE. There are tickers that are sort of similar that aren't generally grouped with GV, I believe, because they build the infrastructure, server racks, backup power, but they don't do the actual electricity delivery, which I think is a big part of this company's market cap right now. In the future, I think a big part, it seems like, is going to be actually building these turbines. So GE Vernova had to build their turbines in order to fulfill their electricity contracts, it seems like. Well, it wouldn't make any other sense why they would build them. And now those turbines are being used for data centers. So it's nice to be in the right place at the right time. VST is another one that actually generates power and sells it. And it looks like they're maybe the most similar. So GE Vernova and VST, I think, are Vistra the most similar. But again, looking at the chart, I wouldn't touch VST right now with a 10-foot pole. I mean, right, this looks terrible. It looks Bitcoin reminiscent. So this is the opportunity here. These are the levels right here. I'm purposefully making this video as it sells off, because what that did is, this is frustrating, right? A 10% move is great, except when you try to get into it, this can happen. So you are getting a pullback to 612. So you can literally risk $3 if you're interested in buying this. This is a 5-day moving average here on the daily right here. So that's up there at 623, I believe. I don't know what's this moving averages I got here. Should be up here. I don't know why it's down here. We'll look into that. But the point is, what you can risk off of it this high, this is 609. And if you risk off 609, or 612, whatever you're more comfortable with, risk $3 to make 30. So that way you can sell up here rather than needing another move up to 670 or something crazy like that. So that's the idea. Ultimately, of course, that 670 is why we're watching it, for a breakout of this massive base. It is sloping down, but it's still holding up compared to other peers. VRT, it looks fine right now, but it's just marching up, and it's hard to get positioned in that. It looks like core weave, right? It's like, do you really want to try to get positioned in this and then get stopped out here and then buy again and then get stopped? It's like, it's just ugly. So if you can find a big base, get a favorable position, sure, maybe you get chopped out a couple times, lose $3 a share, lose $3 a share. You could lose $3 a share 3 times, right? And all you need is one move of $20 a share, and you've basically doubled those losses. So not including commissions, but commissions are negligible these days. So $20 a share isn't even anything. I mean, that's 3%. Really, we're talking about more like $60 a share, something like that. So that's the idea. And I'm not saying that these companies aren't worth looking at, VRT and VST. It's definitely worth looking at any sort of deals that might come out, any sort of collaborations with big hyperscaler companies that actually are, I don't know if they're paying, I mean, they are paying the bills, but they just have the most cash. So that's why we always look at them. They make up 30% of the S&P, right? What we just want to watch is, are data centers in demand? Is there any sort of AI bubble narrative change in reality, not just in the stock market? And, what I mean by in the stock market is we might see a move down for a couple of days. That's no big deal. But if something comes out where, say, OpenAI releases numbers, I mean, OpenAI is private, right? And the reason we talk about them is that they are trying to raise $1 trillion. And so all that money is going somewhere. It's going to companies like GEV. If they, for whatever reason, release revenue numbers that are just underwhelming, and it turns out people don't want to upgrade ChatGPT. I mean, ChatGPT is fine as it is. And then when they do rate limit it so much that it becomes essentially unusable, people aren't willing to pay for it because they can just go to Gemini, Google's thing or Meta's thing, and get the same answers. And, Google is happy to provide that load because they can serve, advertising links below that. And so, it's no big deal if they lose a little bit of money on answering this query. And there's little differences between them. This isn't about predicting the whole future of AI. There are plenty of people that talk until their face is blue on that. But it could happen. There could be some sort of issues that come out in 2028. Maybe, the public policy, the sentiment is just really negative on data centers. People don't want them in their backyard. Maybe something happens where, again, people don't want to upgrade their ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is a consumer product. So it could definitely happen. Something could happen with China, although, we are pretty independent at this point. That's super broad, but that's what could really affect a long-term move in this company. But that's not what we're all about. What I'm trying to share with you is an opportunity that could make 15% in a couple months at most. So that's GEV. That's probably more than you necessarily wanted about GEV, but that's an idea. Rubrik Software is also interesting. They just had earnings, and their peers are Zscaler, and which doesn't look great at all, and CrowdStrike. So Zscaler earnings came out a couple days ago, a week ago actually, and no bounce at all. So it's not interesting. Could you get a bounce like the Meta bounce? You could, but I always say this: like, are you going to buy it here? It's going to go down more. You're going to buy it here? It's going to go down more. So it's just very difficult to time these. Remember the trade desk back here? You're going to buy it here. Well, it went down more. You're going to buy it here. Well, what time are you going to buy here? It went down even more. So Netflix is another one that had a very challenging earnings. Maybe you bought the bounce and you got it at the right time. You got 2%, 3%, great. But don't hold too long. So you can get these little ramps, but you really got to be careful with bounces, because what a down move indicates is a lot of selling pressure, and that coincides with a lot of volume. And you don't want to be buying when there's a lot of volume. We talked about that in the Tesla breakout, right? If you're buying when there's a lot of volume, you're kind of late to the party. Right? This was the time to buy, sometime down in here. And on the downside, if you're buying when there's a lot of volume, look at this volume that came into Spotify, and you're buying here. Well, it just went lower. If you're buying here, great. This is technically a green candle, just barely, but it didn't go anywhere and actually went lower. So volume is fine to scan for these tiny companies like Intuitive. This is not a tiny company, really. It's a massive company. But Intuitive Surgical is actually shaping up pretty well, ISRG. What I was really thinking of is this little robotics company and this KITT, ton of volume coming into it, but selling off. So there's a lot of risk there. What was the company that started with an I that I was trying to... Oh yeah, iRobot. So volume can indicate interest in a tiny stock when it's far exceeds what the volume was in the past. And iRobot is showing that with the Trump executive order robot news. But otherwise, for big companies, you don't want to pay attention to big volume unless it's an earnings reaction, or a big product announcement, or a massive change in character announcement. So that's a lot, but hopefully that is somewhat clarifying. There's a close here at 86.2 on this first day. That's what you want to risk off of. So you buy it at 86.7, risk 50 cents. Maybe you get chopped out, maybe you don't. throw in a stop there. Go to the store, go to your kids' soccer game, go to work, go to the beach, go to the bank, whatever you're up to. Stops are everything. So you risk 50 cents, look for $5. $5 on the $86 stock is whatever it is, $91. It's totally achievable, right? Even better would be an actual breakout, like we were talking about GEV, up to over that $100 psychological level. So that is the opportunity there. And those are the ideas. If you like these ideas, hit that like button to get those in the YouTube algorithm. I think the volume should be okay here. I know we're doing some construction here. If you want a free course on how to find the next NVIDIA without gambling on startups, hit that subscribe. And if you want to meet up in the Discord, head over to stockscommunity.com. You're going to see some pretty cool testimonials. I'll flash some on the screen right there. It's about a $6,500 gain. And how about this one? 10 grand. So check it out if that is an opportunity for you, not financial advice.
Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam. This is Sam Putnam.